Lee Miles asks an ADHD question, and it says, they often find their brain overflowing with new and exciting ideas, leading to juggle multiple projects at once. I know exactly how you feel. I now have an AV cart over here, that's sort of like a tool cart, and it is filled with all of the in-progress pieces. It's full of all the in-progress parts, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1 gallon Ziploc bags are like the soul of my organization right now. I just love them. I need to get some 2 gallons, some even bigger ones. But what Lee Miles says is, while I know I need to pause and organize, I'd much rather dive into creating. And it feels like organization eats up precious time. Yes, I totally know what you mean. But avoiding organization leaves you feeling more overwhelmed and stuck. Yes. Again, I feel exactly. How do you manage multiple projects and prioritize between what needs to be done and what you want to do? I have all the same issues. And I don't have a definitive single answer to this. But I will say, when I want to get something done that I don't want to do, when I am approaching something that is difficult to do, and I used this technique for quitting smoking, as well as keeping my shop and my home space clean. When I am looking at something that I don't want to do, I think about it a lot. I end up putting a sort of a regular subroutine of considering it. So for instance, right now, my office at home, which is not officially a workspace, but I do some work in there. Like I've been taking home a project I'm working on here now at night to look at it and put it on my desk and look at it. And because I sometimes bring a lot of stuff in that doesn't leave, my office at home has gotten a little bit like locked in with crap. And I know that it's like 1 hour. And the difficulty with cleaning up crap like this, with cleaning up shop crap, is that you have like 3 different objects and they all go to a different part of your reality. So it's just like it's not just that you're like, oh, I gotta gear up to clean. It's like I gotta gear up to walk upstairs like 20 times in a row, putting things into different places that they belong. I got to carry each tool back to the drawer it goes in and put it back and come on back. And that's tedious. Totally is tedious. But so my technique is to think about it. And then when I keep on thinking about it each time I'm approaching, look at my office, I'd like to clean it up. Next morning I look, I'd like to clean it up. There will be a time, that situation's only been extant for about 5 days now. But there will be a time in the next couple of days where that energy will arrive. I'll be like, that was a really great burger. I'm gonna go clean my office. Like that's kind of how it works for me. Now, don't get me wrong. This is in like, if my partner was like, your office is awful to look at, please deal with it, then I put it on a higher priority and I deal with it. That's not a problem. I'm like, I know what it's like to have a space that's so intense, but we are in our balancing and operating the levers of our household. My partner, my wife and I are pretty aligned in that flow of neatness and clean, of dirt and cleanliness, right? How often I do the laundry, how often we do the dishes, etc. Because part of the thing I know, every time I think about cleaning the office, I know that the office will draw me in more when it's clean. I know that the bench will draw me to it when it's clean. That's often what I'm holding in my head at the end of the day when I'm cleaning. And I don't always clean at the end of the day. I clean at the end of the day about 1/3 of the time. I wish it was more, but frankly, it hasn't been. Because the simple fact is, every time I spend effort organizing, everything gets better. That's the other one. Everything gets better. And so I did that about smoking. I smoked for 20 years. I stopped in 2003. And for about 2 years beforehand, I just took note of how every cigarette felt. And I had to admit that they were awful, every single one. Like what I was getting from it was what I was getting from it, but the actual taste and experience, not great. Not like being 22 and having that first cigarette of the day. Man, that was a great cigarette. I didn't experience that at any age after 22, but boy, did I ride that memory for a long time. But I got bronchitis in 2004 4 actually. We were in Hawaii and I got bronchitis and then smoked for 10 days and I haven't smoked since then. But that for me, it is a process of building the energy towards the difficult execution of the thing. Oh, I wanted to get to smell. Jordon Freeman says, do you have a favorite smell? Mine is burning coal, as I'm passionate about steam locomotives, and I love that smoky smell they produce. Dude, we spent some time with Richard Taylor at his farm in Wairarapa, New Zealand, a few years ago when he had a meetup for 7.5-inch grade train makers. And that smell is a spectacular smell, that hot coal burning oil steam engine smell. I agree with you. It is a smell among smells. I've written down a few things that I really dig, but the ones you might not expect. I love Acqua di Parma. I got this in a hotel once, and it is still one of my favorite smells. And so I try and keep Acqua di Parma hand soap at the cave and at the house. I love this stuff. That's the only fancy smell I'm going to cover in this coverage. I love the shop oil. I love cutting oil, hot cutting oil. I love the smell of wood after cutting. I shouldn't, but I love the smell of cyanoacrylate activator. That stuff it's terrible, but it smells like work to me. Oh, and speaking of that, I've shown this before. This is my Mole Richardson fog machine. Just right now, that the oil that it burns, which is like mineral oil and a little glycerin and some other magic ingredient. When that stuff is hot, honestly, it's one of the great smells. And it's probably because of how much fun I still consider the first few years of my film work were. So I worked at Colossal Pictures in Jamie's model shop for about 4 years solids, did about 200 commercials in that time. And stepping onto the soundstage, onto the cyclorama, and smelling that smoke, just like there's a whole team of crazy competent people about to do something really difficult. It's really fun. And so that smoke smell just brings all that sort of youth memory back into my head. CA activator, hot cutting fluid, wood after cutting, hot steel. Yeah, hot steel is great too. I visited cutting edge engineering in Brisbane, outside of Brisbane, Australia, and the smell in that shop, exactly what you think it is. Hot steel, moving well. It's a great smell. I read once that because the part of your brain that processes smell is near the part that processes memory. I have no idea if this is true. Consult your local neuroscientist. That is why we associate memory with smell. And years and years and years ago, and this is like 32 years ago, I made a giant nose. And I made it because there was a sculpture in New York of a giant ear, and I loved it so much. It was like this big and absolutely gorgeous. And I was like, I want a giant body part in a frame. So I took chicken wire and plaster bandages and plaster, and I made this giant nose. It still lives, I believe. I'll find a photo of it. There used to be this thing that would happen once a month in San Francisco called the Anon Salon, run by Joe Bullock and his wife, Marcia. Joe and Marcia Bullock, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's true. And the Anon Salon was like early San Francisco art community. It was the first place I met Craig Newmark. And this is like almost pre-Craigslist, or like in the first year of Craigslist, like the mid 90s, early 90s. Yeah, we're talking a long time ago. And that nose sculpture, I believe, still hangs in Joe Bullock's apartment. I've never gotten around to getting it back from him. Why am I talking about this? Chuck in Belize wants to know, great username. What shop-made milling machine or metalworking lathe accessory have you wanted to build but never did? Oh, to build. Yeah, well, the answer is still, okay. I read the question slightly differently because I was moving quickly. There's a mill and a lathe that I covet over any other. The Deckel mill, which Stefan Gottseventer makes so much magic with. It is such a versatile, incredible machine. They rarely show up in the United States. It's a big ticket item. It's European made, and it's, like I said, not many of them have made it over here. When they do, they're expensive. But I covet the Deckel mill, and I really covet the Myford lathe. They just did a restoration of one on Cronova Engineering, a great YouTube channel. And I just like, it's such a beautiful piece of equipment, so gorgeous. That being said, you asked me about what I wanted to build, and I would love to build a really nice milling attachment for my watchmaker's lathe. I love the idea of, I used to have an Emco German mill, German lathe, an Emco Compact 5. So not to be mistaken for Enco, which also makes machine tools in the United States. Emco, I believe, is German, and they make these, they're usually yellow, lathes that are really tight and precise out of the box. They're spectacular. And I bought mine from Mitch Romanowski back in the day, and I had a milling attachment for it. Those are great machines. And I miss mine. I'm trying to think about where I traded it to Pierre, my friend Pierre Maurer. A milling attachment for my watchmaker lathe, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I wanted to briefly mention that you could become a tested member. I know, everybody is competing for you to become a member of their thing. What I want to express to you is that the Tested membership has become such an important part of the Tested family. We get tremendous feedback from the Tested members, and they expand the stories that we can tell and the things that we have access to. And you can become a part of it right now by clicking on the link below. See you in the chat.